Ladies and gentlemen, this is Cynthia the Audio Bell back with another Texas Audio Roundup video. I did a few interviews on day 2 of the show and was happy to get the chance to meet Jason Stoddard, co-founder of Schiit Audio, for the first time. I was even more ecstatic when he agreed to do this interview with me. I learned that Jason of Schiit and Dan of Emotiva had been longtime friends. Though their amplifiers take on completely different concepts, as Jason says in this video, if you want umpteen watts from an amplifier, talk to Dan, their values are very similar in helping to put affordable audio products on the market at mid-fight prices. The first video I had seen of Jason was a How It's Made style video on Darko's channel from his American Made series. Another young lady audiophile named Jana went to the Schiit Audio facility to film the making of the Schiit Tyr monoblock amplifier. I think her video series is very well done, and it looks like she's done a lot of hard work trying to recreate how it's made via her film work to make these. But my point of bringing up this other video is the initial part of the video shows Jason and his ultra-beautiful Corvette. In a way, this made me think he might not be down to earth, but when I actually had a conversation with him, he was one of the most down-to-earth and transparent people I've met in the industry. He talks about things that have had to be redesigned due to the global part shortage, discusses Schiit's retail store in California, which has apparently been open since 2017, but it's when we talk tech that I see his eyes brighten and his face light up, and I know at that point who Jason Stoddard is. He's an engineer, someone who's passionate about the nerdy things. So while I had the wrong impression about his Corvette from this other video, I conclude here that this is not a show-off piece, but rather this man is proud of where his company is, and perhaps due to this success, he was able to buy his dream car. And who doesn't want a piece of the American dream? Also, towards the end, I asked Jason what the difference in sound is between the Schiit Tyr with and without the choke in the power supply, and he started coming up with a really cool idea and engineering on the spot. Please do not forget to subscribe, turn on all notifications so you do not miss when the next video comes out, like and comment if you have anything you would like to generate discussion on. Enjoy the video, everyone! Ladies and gentlemen, this is Cynthia the Audio Bell, and I am here with Jason of Schiit Audio, who has agreed to do an interview with me. So, Jason, you and Emotiva put together this show, the Texas Audio Roundup?
Yeah, well, technically I didn't do anything like that.
Oh.
When I was presented the idea, I said, this is a great idea, let's do it. And then, you know, the people that we work, that work for us kind of took it away. So, yeah, Denise and Marv and, you know, Emotiva and their people, you know, they're the ones. Yeah. Dan and I just kind of show up and eat the free food.
Okay. There was a lot of free food.
Yeah, I know.
And alcohol.
Well, we wanted to make this a little more comfortable show. You know, it's we've gone to a lot of big shows, and right now we're like, yeah, let's maybe do something more on the affordable side, maybe more on the direct side. Let's feed people a little bit and see how it goes.
Well, it was really good, and I don't know, with all of that went into it, it seems like you guys are trying to make this an annual thing or like a regular thing. Is that what y'all are trying to accomplish?
I'm really hoping we can make it an annual thing. So it's, you know, us and Emotiva and a few friends, or, you know, I don't know what the interest level is. I mean, people might be kind of weirded out. It's like, wait a minute, inexpensive audio, you know. Do you welcome expensive stuff? I was like, yeah, we got $10,000. We have a $10,000 headphone amp, like down the hall, you know. So that's fine. Everyone's welcome. It's just, I think the common theme is most companies will have some affordable product, and almost all of them seem to be selling direct. I think Magnapan's here. I think, you know, you can go on their website and inquire if you don't have a dealer, so you can actually buy direct.
Yeah, just kind of that theme of selling direct and being more so for the consumer as far as that goes. So what is like your inspiration for this show in general? What has been the most inspirational point of all of this coming together?
It's nice to actually get out, meet new companies and old friends again, because this is the first show I've been to since everything got, you know, closed down.
With the pandemic and all of that.
So I think we were heading for Axpona, and then everything happened, and that was that. the reason we didn't go to Expo this year is, we were already planning for this, so we decided, let's do this. Also, let's do it in Texas, a state that hasn't historically had audio shows. And we have actually a couple local guys here, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah, I heard you opened up a new plant here in Texas? Or?
Yeah, we're doing manufacturing here in Texas in Corpus Christi, and then we're still doing manufacturing in California. But right now, if you buy something from us at the lowest level, our 6-band EQ or below, down to full, it's made here in Texas, and it'll come with a little Texas, Texas sticker and, fun stuff like that. And if you buy anything, that's like Asgard and above, it comes from California, you get a Schiit California sticker.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's really fun. We've had some fun with it because we have our little, the package sealing tape has California on it, California, Texas for Texas. And
I like that. It's kind of like a branding thing.
Yeah, and it's like, we want people to know that, it actually does come from here. And in fact, hilariously, I think all of our metal now either comes from Sinton or Texarkana.
Really?
Yeah, and then the funny part is it gets shipped to California and stamped and then painted and finished. And some of it comes back here and some of it stays in California. I'm like, this is, eventually we'll be doing this.
It's a lot of shipping
here, but yeah, it's kind of silly, but it works for us. And we have some partners in California we've worked with a long time, and now it's my job to convince them, hey, you need a stamping place here, maybe if not Corpus Christi, hey, San Antonio,
could be a good idea.
Yeah, let's do that because the shipping gets old.
Yeah. Well, very cool. So. I also heard that you guys have your own retail store in California.
Yes.
When did that all start?
Oh, that was like 4 years ago now.
Okay.
It was a while back. We have one retail store, which we call the Shitter.
Mm-hmm. I saw that.
It's the only time that's okay for guys to plan to go to the Shitter together.
That's what I was reading online when I was reading the description of it.
Yeah. And
it's pretty creative.
It's actually been a great place to have because people can come in and listen to our stuff. They can actually call up and talk to someone at the store. They can do a lot of they can get more of a feel for who we are. I'd love to have more of them. And actually I'd love to have one right here in Austin.
That would be pretty sweet.
Yeah, and that's something we will be looking at. But maintaining the retail store is it's not really what you'd call we don't do it just to sell things. It's really more of a focal point. And when we have events or we have press in, we take them to the store, and it's great because we can sit down and listen to things. It's not an ugly factory because the amount of money we put in making the factory look good is exactly zero.
It's a factory.
Yeah, no one cares. Oh no, even Tim's place is fantastic, it's spectacular. We're like, well, the walls are up and the carpet hasn't worn all the way through. It's fine.
It works for what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of how we are.
So the shop is to bring people in, do events, and do you actually sell a few items there as well?
Yes, we do sell things there. And, we actually have a decent number of people that come in and either pick up, or listen and then buy. And, we used to have a map up of all the people that came from all over the world to actually...
Oh, that's cool.
And we do actually have people who, make it a point. It's like, well, if I'm going to visit LA, I'm going to go to the Shitter. And I'm like... do you know how far it is away from LA? Because it's still 30 miles, but people come and see us.
Well, I think that's really nice to have, considering the lack of brick and mortar stores nowadays and how the decline in just a tangible place to go and listen or collaborate, have an event, buy Hyatt Audio is just kind of dwindling down with online and everything, which is fine. It's more convenient and everything, but getting to actually go somewhere and listen before you buy has been a big kind of
Yeah,
deal.
It's tough. It's tough. I mean, that's the one thing you lost in the transition to direct. Is like, typically you got to buy it, get into the house, go, yes, no, maybe, and then if you don't like it, you have to ship it back. It's a giant pain. Yeah, it's the Amazon model, but still, yeah, there's no place you can go and say, well, what about this? What about that? And if I had, unlimited funds, I'd probably have one here in Austin. I'd have one in the San Francisco area, and I'd have one in New York. That's just based on, our
all
sales.
The hard hitters.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'd love to have one in every state, sure. I'd love to have one in Europe. I'd love to, but, just based on where the sales are. Because, I mean, we saw a lot in the Bay Area, a lot in New York, a lot in Texas, a lot in, LA area. That's not to say we don't sell in the rest of the U.S.
Right.
I mean, maybe we need to do like Emotiva, have like a traveling thing, because they have like their whole, essentially they have like an RV that they have kitted out as a home theater.
Do they really? I didn't even realize they had an RV or they traveled with a setup.
Yeah, they can do that, which is neat. And I don't know, maybe we've never been motivated enough. Now we got to think. I got to think. Is that a good idea? Maybe.
But you guys sell direct, and don't you have some kind of trial or?
Yeah. 15 days. I think a lot of people have copied that. Been thinking about, should we extend it to 30? I don't know.
I think you should extend it to 30 with the break-in and stuff. That's just me, though.
Well, we're pretty lenient on it too. A lot of people are like, oh my God, I missed it by a couple days. Like, I don't care. Send it back. You don't like it?
That's nice.
Yeah. But if we made it officially 30, I guess that might reduce some of the nervousness.
But technically, I haven't had to send something back because it sounded so good, so it didn't really matter.
Well, that's what we're hoping. So. But I think, with Folk Vonger, a lot of people, the big tube amp, a lot of people are like, well, it is really headphone picky. I'm like, yeah, and, maybe you do need to see if it works for you. That's one that I made sure, we have one at the shitter so people can listen to it and decide if they're in the area. And I think there's enough impressions online now that people are getting an idea of what it works for and what it doesn't. It's like HE6s, no, sorry, it might have a lot of tubes, it doesn't have a lot of power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just whatever works for that person in their system.
Yeah. I love what Grados, but I'm weird, and some people are like, well, Grados are uncomfortable or whatever, it's like, yeah, I know, but they also sound fantastic. And there's other trade-offs with other headphones.
Well, it's kind of like, am I gonna pick a shirt that's really comfortable, or am I gonna pick a shirt that looks really good?
Yeah.
You gotta have a balance there.
Well, and the speaker guys, it's funny because you talk to people who've done 2-channel, they've done speakers for a long time. Like, I don't understand why you have so many headphones. I mean, it's very typical for people to have multiple headphones because there are strengths and weaknesses. And it's not like you got to swap out speakers. It's just like, here you go, plug in that one, plug in that one. And so I said, yeah, maybe it's weird if you have like 20 headphones, but to have 3 or 4 is really not that weird.
I guess it'd be a lot easier too to swap in and out headphones than entire components in a 2-channel setup.
Oh yeah,
fully 2-channel.
I like every time I redo either home theater or 2-channel stuff, I'm like, oh God, I gotta tear it all apart. Yeah.
Turn the speakers.
Yeah.
Tweak the subwoofer.
Yes, and it's like, oh boy. Whereas headphones, like, sounds good, sounds bad, sounds okay. I'll stick with these.
Yeah.
It's different, but I mean, I've been doing a lot of listening, like near field speakers lately, and then I went back to headphones. Like, oh yeah, I remember what these do well. And then, far field, home theater and audio listening I do all the time. But the near field stuff is interesting too, because the way things change in the near field. I'm not using like professional monitors. I'm using like CAF LS50s and things like that. And they're actually not that great near field. So I'm like, okay, maybe I need to do the pro monitors. And I'm still learning, in this business. It's amazing how much I don't know. after all these years?
Well, it seems like there's always going to be something we don't know, and then just over time, as technology continues to advance, you have to keep up with it, and just there's so much to always learn. So it's crazy.
Well, I always wonder, you know, about our product line. You know, what is it? Is it right? Is it, you know? And I just keep coming back to, if I like it, let's make it. If other people like it, let's make more of them. And that's why, you know, people are like, well, your line's kind of big. I'm like, it's funny because our biggest complaint is you don't do enough variations. And I'm like, well.
That's ironic.
Yeah. But I get it. I mean, it's like, you know, Freya preamp now has, you know, 3 variations. Yeah. And
it's like the Freya Plus, and then now you have the Freya Noble.
Yeah.
So what is the Noble?
Well, we have Freya Plus, Freya S, and Noble. So S is the solid state.
Yeah. Okay.
Which hilariously is what Mike and I use. Yeah. I know. It's actually embarrassing because I'm like, I like that one the best.
That's the one you like, though.
Yeah.
So what's different for you listening to that versus the Plus or the Noble?
I think for me, it's just I'm lazy. I don't have to go, ooh, is it a good tube day? Is it a bad tube day? You know, are these tubes great? Or is it going to be weird? So, because tubes are variable. And I tell people, it's like, if you want probably the best, you know, audio experience, you know, tubes are usually part of the mix. But the problem is that they can be good, they can be bad, they can pick up RF, they do degrade over time. So
there's hum.
Yeah, there can be hum, there can be hiss. And Freya S is just like, oh, you turn it on, it works. And it sounds pretty good, you know, for a solid state preamp, it sounds pretty good. If every day was a perfect day, yeah, probably Freya Plus. You know.
I hear you.
But we're running into huge tube problems. You know, I mean, before the tube debacle, you know, well, before the Russian debacle, we were having trouble getting enough tubes to supply Freya production. And so we started, you know, thinking about, you know, what can we do? And I'm like, well, we have a ton of 6N1P tubes, which are 9-pin or Noble tubes, slightly smaller. And I'm like, you can do original Freya for that. And then people could actually do a lot of tube rolling because kind of Freyas were like, well, what kind of tube is this? Like 6SN7. Well, what else? 6SN7. You know, but Freya Noble, it's like, here's a whole list of tubes you can use. And in fact, you can even do like the 6N6Ps as outputs and, you know, some ECC88s as inputs. So there's a lot of, you know, if you want to do tube rolling, you know, it's an absolute dream. If you are crazy, you know, if tube rolling makes you crazy, it's a nightmare.
So the Noble, is that the form factor itself of the slot or the tube itself?
It's basically the socket. That's two basic kinds of tubes.
Basically what you're explaining.
Yeah, there's octal and Noble. Octal 8-pin, Noble 9-pin.
Oh.
And then, then there's the big power tubes that are like 4-pin and stuff, but we don't do anything. But yeah, everyone's like, do a 300B preamp. I'm like, no.
Well, this just makes it more versatile.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then, we got Freya S for the solid state. So now you got options, and we just reintroduced List, our tube replacement, because it's like if we can't get tubes, we can sell Freya Plus with List. And recently, we've done some, listening tests, and some people are like, List are actually really good. They're not tubes, but they're really good. So it's like now you can buy a Freya Plus with a set of List. You'll always have, a backup that'll last forever. And then you can roll, any tubes you want.
So what is List? I read that it was a solid state tube.
Yeah, it's basically...
I got very immediately confused.
Yeah, we're taking a couple of depletion mode MOSFETs, which are the closest semiconductor device to a tube, even though they're not tubes. They don't really act like tubes, but the distortion characteristics end up being similar. Mm-hmm. Just lower than a tube, and everything works similarly. And the thing is, they just last forever. They're solid state. They're nearly forever. Someone's going to 30 years from now, my list has broken. And you said they last forever. Yeah, no, they last for the warranty period, definitely. Or we'll replace them. But they're it's actually, it's a good sounding thing. It maintains the tube topology. It's not just swapping out like the buffer stage in Freya is a separate solid state buffer stage. It's a whole separate thing. You can choose tubes or you can choose the buffer. Mm-hmm. They don't go through each other. And this is like, okay, this is tubes, but it's with a solid state element. So it does end up sounding, quite akin to tubes, but without having to worry about, is it a good tube day, is it a bad tube day?
It's like nearline tube.
Yeah. Well, it's also like, one of the complaints we get is like, I have a tube preamp, it picks up some strange noises when my cell phone's near. It's like, yeah, tubes were not designed in an era where they expected to have RF, sitting right next to the tube.
Right.
Yeah, list, it's in a metal can, it doesn't care, it doesn't matter. But with a tube, it might matter. And if you have a Wi-Fi router and you're getting weird noises, that might be it. You might need to move that away from the fray, or move the phone, or move, in these days, it could be your smoke detector, that's connected, via Wi-Fi. So, tubes are great. It's just that sometimes tubes in the modern world don't interact so well, and that's where you gotta be flexible, move things around a bit.
So explain it like your 5 version is basically, they're kind of tubes in a metal can, but with MOSFETs.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's basically a couple of MOSFETs, a little bit of associated circuitry to get them going, and in a can, in a nice looking little can that should last fairly indefinitely.
That's really different.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard of anybody doing anything like that before.
No, it's a really weird idea. We did it early on when we did Mjolnir 2. We actually introduced the first list because I wanted to say you can have a tube amp or not a tube amp. And that was, and people at the time were kind of like, this is weird, I don't know about this. But now that tubes are a little more problematic and more expensive, like, oh, I totally get this. It'd be really nice to have a backup to not, have to worry about it. And it's like, yeah, exactly. And we have some people that are like, I just use a list. They sound the best. I'm not going to do it. Like, it's kind of weird. I'd do Freya-esque, but whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, very cool. Yeah. I did have a couple of questions for you with everything that's been going on with COVID and stuff. I know I work in the computer industry, and so even before COVID and all of that, we had like stuff going on with the microchip shortage globally. And it's been worse since COVID. So I was wondering how everything was going with Schiit Audio with the part shortage globally, the labor shortage, and all that.
It's been horrible.
To say the least, for everybody.
I haven't been able to design a lot of new products strictly because I was redesigning our older products to make sure that we can actually get some things that right now. I mean, I've seen shortages on stuff that's just dead simple. Regulators and things like that you would never expect to have short.
Yeah.
That seems to be easing up. The analog side seems to be easing up. But we have huge problems with DSPs, digital signal processing chips. They're horrible. Microprocessors are still scary because we're on a delivery schedule. And it's like if our demand goes up, then things could get really weird.
Yeah.
Also, if they push out delivery, and they've done that on the DSPs multiple times, like if we don't make the November shipment, our multi-bit DACs might go away for a little while, might go away until we, finish the TI redesign, that we're working on right now. But even then, the TI parts are also, long lead, and it's like, what do you do? And I've had people complain about, availability and things like that. And it's like, guys, have you been on a car lot recently? I mean... Right,
exactly.
It's like...
It's happening with cars and everything.
Everyone's suffering. We're doing the best we can. We'll have something. But right now, you know, I mean, if you say, well, next year will your multi-bit DACs be based on analog devices or TI? It's like, I don't know, maybe both, and maybe neither, and maybe we won't be able to get either, and we won't have any multi-bit DACs at this time next year. But you know, they'll come back as soon as we can get parts. They'll come back. But yeah, it's kind of scary to stare into that and go, yeah.
Where's the future at this point?
What happens.
So does it sound any different when you have to redesign something, or do you notice any subtle differences at all?
Theoretically, on the DSP side, it shouldn't, because it's just running, you know, it's just running code. It's just bits. But as you know, changing anything can change it. So we don't know. The other changes we've had to do to accept different types of regulators and things like that hasn't really changed much of anything, because it's typically like, well, you chose the wrong package size. This is the same regulator in a different package. Okay. You know, that kind of thing. And so I haven't had to do any like hardcore substitutions. There's some single source parts that we're a little worried about, but I think we're fairly well covered. But yeah, let me tell you, that's top of mind. Is like, what about parts?
Yeah.
Prices have gone up, you know, in parts. Prices have gone up. Transformers are horrible. Chassis have gone up. You know, parts in general have gone up.
I didn't even think about transformers. But
It's horrible. The transformers, we had to raise the price on the amps so like $100, because the transformers have doubled in price, and it's like, I'm like, guys, they're like, we can't do anything.
yeah, I've been seeing the prices increase everywhere, places where you wouldn't have expected it, but just everything going on.
Yeah, they're like, oh, I said, well, what can we do about the transformers? They're like, well, we can make them in China. I'm like, well, maybe not. Not with our brand, you know.
Those are made here.
Yeah, they're made in California of all places. But they, you know, it's for a product made in California, so that's cool. But yeah, and that's the thing. I understand why people move things offshore more, because you know, when the prices go up, it's real tempting to say, yeah, let's go for the Chinese transformer. Nothing wrong with that, but you know, we've kind of built the brand on like, we are made in the U.S., really actually made in the U.S. I don't want to ship things overseas just to maintain, you know, a price point.
And it's tough when you want to keep a price point for consumers and not have to raise prices.
I know.
But you also want to keep consistency, and that's just a really tough call.
Yeah, we are working with them right now to see if we have some alternatives. They're working on a different core design for our flat pack transformers, which should bring them back down to what they were. Steel prices are coming down, which will help.
That's good.
The big transformers, I don't know. I mean, we may end up going to toroids or something.
What's that?
They're the round transformers. Right now,
Okay.
we're using the EI core old school mainly, except in Ragnarok. But the toroid in Ragnarok was so successful. It's like, that's kind of interesting too. Don't know, but they are less expensive than the EI core, you know, old school. But they also have another way of making them that might also bring it down to what it was. And so I'm like, it's like cool. It's like, these are the products that we need to try to maintain, and we'll see what happens.
As long as it sounds good. I mean, I've heard a transformer can make or break it.
It can make or break it, yeah. I mean, we got real lucky because Ragnarok started with an EI. We took it to a toroid, and I'm like, we'll see what happens. You know, but the early prototypes, it's like, wow, this actually sounds better. It sounds less thick and congested, and it was actually a net positive. And so yeah, we switched to the toroid, and everyone's happy because it's quieter and it sounds better. Or you're going around, you know, oh shit, can't design anything that measures well. It's like, it's easy, who cares? So we did a couple, and then that story went away, and everyone's happy now. So it's like,
it's your company. And
yeah.
obviously, there's a certain amount where you cater to your customers and stuff, but there's also a certain amount, well, this is why I got invested in this in the first place, and what made me interested to do this. I saw a need, but I also saw like this creativity aspect of what I wanted to do and combine the two.
Well, it's one guy. Okay, I had an interview recently, and I was asked the hardest question ever, which was, he said, if you had to choose one word to describe your company, what would it be? I'm like, one word. I'm like, finally, like, okay, I have to boil it down to fun. You know, because I don't want to make things that, you know, just meet a goal or a spec or whatever. I want it to be fun to actually listen to, fun to buy, you know, and not like, oh my God, you know, I need to spend $20,000 on this or whatever, you know. And, you know, I'm, you know, a $50,000 piece of audio gear, I don't know how that could, in any way, shape, or form, be fun, because you're like, car, or, you know, CD player, whatever. You know, it's like, how do you boil that down? Or,
Jeep Gladiator, or
yeah, thank you. Yeah, exactly. How many Jeep units is your audio? You know, is your audio gear? If it's one Jeep unit per component, no, the Jeep's gonna be a lot more fun. So, but that's just me. Some people are gonna go, oh, he's crazy. But I don't know. I think we need more. And I said I'd really rather use two words: fun and affordable. But you know, when you really have to boil it down, I'd rather keep it
fun. It has to be affordable in some aspects.
I would think so. I mean, I don't want to, you know, sorry. I have been told straight out many times that, you know, oh, well, you know, you're not serious about audio unless your 2-channel rig is above $250,000. I'm like, no, that's a house. You know, it's, well, no, it's not really a house in California, but it's a house here. You know, and I'm like, no, that's crazy. So let's have some fun. Start with, you know, $100 product, or, you know, $200 stack of stuff. It says, you know, what we believe on the website, which is, that's all you really need. We do all the other stuff mainly, you know, because if you want something wacky, we got wacky.
Yeah, it's just something about getting the product home, unboxing it, looking at it, smelling it, visualizing just all aspects of it, and then for like the Freya Plus, turning the dial and you hear that little clicky sound.
Yeah.
That's beautiful and annoying at the same time.
Yeah.
So it is fun, the whole process.
Yeah, it is, and I'm really so happy we were able to do relay, ladder, volume, you know, on stuff. I know the sound does drive some people completely insane, but I love the clicking.
I like it too.
You get used to it, or the big you know, the big EQ, the Loki Max, where all the knobs turn and everything. You know, it's like this is really cool, but it's not, you know, $50,000. It's not $15,000. It's like $1,500. It's like, okay. And that's a crazy product for us. I'm like, that's, you know, no one's going to buy this. But no, it's been actually quite popular.
Yeah.
So,
well, I have one last topic for you, and it's regarding the Tyr. I had one viewer that was like, I want to hear more about the Tyr. Mm-hmm. And I was reading up on it. I saw it had a choke input. I have no idea what all of that is. So could you elaborate more on like some of the nerdy bits and some of the other bits?
In the old days, before they got good at making capacitors, they used chokes to filter the power supply. Chokes are just a different energy storage device. You know, it's you know, a coil of wire on a steel core, rather than, you know, a big can full of gloop and with a bunch of metal plates wrapped around.
Okay.
Yeah, they both store energy. A choke can be more effective than, you know, any amount of capacitance. So Tyr is one of the, it's a very weird device in that it has a choke input to the power supply. The choke is the same size as the transformer. They both weigh 12 pounds. No one does it anymore because chokes are real expensive. It's heavy. It's a big, heavy, stupid, you know, product. But it sounds fantastic. And you know, measurement-wise, when you actually look at the power supply, not the output so much, but if you look at the power supply, it's like you get 3 or 4 volts of, you know, ripple, like, you know, when the thing is actually biased up. And that's where the capacitors are charging up, discharging, charge, discharge, you know, to turn the AC into DC. You put the choke in the thing, and it goes down to about 10 millivolts. It's just, it's like nothing. So it's another way to do a power supply. Mike Moffat, my business partner, always thought it was a superior way. And I kind of, yeah. And then I finally built a choke input amp. I'm like, oh, I get it. Wow, this is totally different because it's like a rock hard brick power supply. And so we finally were able to do Tyr, which is going to be our top amp. You know, we're not going to do anything.
Top tier.
Top tier. And that's it, you know. Because everyone's like, well, what's next? Like a 1,000-watt amp? It's like, no, just go away. Go buy Emotiva, they have 1,000-watt amps.
Well, that was going to be another question about the Tyr. Why only 350 watts?
Yeah, because that's about all you can get with a choke. I mean, if we went bigger, you know, you're probably looking at like a 50-pound transformer and a 50-pound choke, you know, in a box. So it's a 150-pound product. Ask Dan what he thinks about shipping, like, because for a while they were shipping these 110, 120-pound amps. And he's like, oh, I don't like this. I'm like, yeah, it's horrible.
Like they're bricks.
It's horrible. They ended up having to crate them. You know, like wood crate everything. I'm like, oh, this is nuts. But, yeah, the problem is, that's the exponential growth. I mean, to get, say, you know, 600 or 700 watts, you probably are looking at about 4 times the weight, you know, of a choke. So then it's even taller. Then it's different heat sinks. Then it's, you know, it kind of breaks our mold, you know, for amplifiers. One of the great things about Tyr and all the other amps, they use the same heat sinks. They use a lot of the same, you know, basic componentry. So we can do them, you know, very effectively and inexpensively. And I don't want to break that. When I was at Sumo years and years ago, I mean, they were famous, like, okay, this amp uses this heat sink on this extrusion and this size, and they're all different. And then, oh, this one uses different power outputs and different this. I'm like, why are you guys doing this? You know, why are you making it so difficult? And like, well, you're the chief engineer, you can fix it. I'm like, cool. So I did, and suddenly we're using 80% less parts variation. So, you know, if shit is good at anything, I keep telling people, it's production engineering. You know, we know how to do things simply and efficiently, you know, but maybe that's it. Maybe that's all we can do. I don't know, but I hope it's more, but we're actually pretty good at keeping things fairly simple.
Will the customers notice a difference with the choke versus non-choke power supply?
All I can say is so far that, you know, people have heard it, you know, think it's dramatic. I should actually do a pair where I can turn it on and off.
Because that's a good idea.
You can actually turn the choke on and off. I mean, I could put in a thing where you have a couple big switches, turn off the choke, you know, bypass the choke. That's a good idea. Oh, you know what?
Coming up with ideas right here.
No, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do that at a future shitter meet, and what we'll do a blind version of that. So you don't know if the choke's in or out, and you just tell us which one you like better.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, and what I'll do is I'll have someone else wire up the switch. I'll be not even involved, and then we'll have someone else switch it. You know, so you won't even know. It's just like, this is A, this is B, or this is X, this is Y. You know,
that's cool.
Keep it fair, and then, you know, let's see. That's actually a great suggestion, because it won't. Yeah, I mean, it'll run both ways. So, that's an interesting idea.
Sounds like it wouldn't be too difficult to implement, to test out.
No, it wouldn't. You know, there would be some technical things, like you don't want to switch it while it's running. Oh my God, you'll weld the switches open or shut. But other than that, it should be doable.
Well, when you do that, I want to hear like what people think as far as the differences. I'd like to follow up on that.
I'm really now I'm curious, because you know I've told people you can pre-test the boards without the choke, because they were like doing all these pre-tests and they were hauling out the transformer and the choke, and I'm like, you don't need the choke. I'm like, yeah, just jumper. You know, for pre-testing, you know, we just need to see if it works. We don't need.
All you have to do is jumper it.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
So, yeah,
I can kind of visualize some of this because I come from an server engineering background.
Oh, okay.
So somewhat similar, although I'm not into audio engineering, electronics, but.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. I never thought of it.
Well, folks, Jason Stoddard from Schiit Audio. This is the Audio Bell signing out. Thank you.